It's not very often we see so many story and lore bombs every few minutes, but that's exactly what happened in Krai. We may have been dropped into a new and unknown region, but Krai hits us with non-stop reveals and very cohesive lore and story. From the true shape and color of our spaceship, to the reveal of Rerir and his extreme fixation on the moons, or even the appearance of another sibling 500 years ago. And that doesn't even scratch the surface of what we've uncovered, like Rerir's possible ties to the Crimson Moon Dynasty's fall and her wife Tholindis, or Varka's mission to rescue Nicole Reyn in Krai's Sealy Kingdom, which I'm sure you don't know about. We've also dug into the very bloody past of Lama and the Frostmoon Scions, their old ties and secrets with the Lightkeepers, and the political influence of the Fae in Snezhnaya, but the single point where everything connects is when we meet and get to know Columbina. Hey guys, what's up? Aru. Usually, story quests keep the big reveal until the end and have very big lore drops from world quests, but with Luna 1, Columbina and the moon's importance are made clear right away, as well as much of the lore already being within the Archon quest. So in this video, we'll be walking through the core aspects of Krai's main story, from our first steps into the region to the final scene with Rerir and Varka, plus a few extra hints from world quests and item lore as well. So let's dive in. The reason I'm bringing up Rerir so early is because his lore and his possible wife come back across multiple parts of the story. Starting with Inafa's introduction, she mentions the wild hunt that's plagued Krai for centuries. This is later revealed to be a special form of abyss created by Rerir after the cataclysm, and the sibling we meet during the quest is actually Rerir in disguise, trying to help us get him to claim the moon's power. He also took the form of flints and other figures to spread chaos and distrust among the people of Krai. All of this was part of his plan to gain a physical body and 10% of his full power through absorbing Kuvaki. This in itself is actually a big question because the Abyss shouldn't be absorbing the power of the moon, which should, in all accounts, be the opposite power. Instead of an annihilation reaction like usual with elemental energy, the dominant force, whichever the two, absorbs the other, which posits a relation between the Abyss and Kuvaki, or the primordial light of Tevat, which again further brings up lore and theories about Nibelung's creation of the moon and his redescending to Tevat with the Abyss. I hazard a guess that Durin will have a lot of insight in this matter as an abyssal dragon and how his own abyssal power would react differently or similarly to the wild hunt with Kuvaki. So is the Abyss actually an alienated element, or is it merely a corrupted form of primordial Kuvaki? But back to the more pressing and recent matter, how did Rerir end up scattered in Krai to begin with? Well, it goes back to him falling into the moon's reflection. His fragments located around Krai suggest that the moon's reflection is also found here, and the key lies within mirrors. Mirrors to alternate worlds are used by Frostmoon Scions, and we've also seen them in Enkanomiya and the Narcisan Kreutz quests in Fontaine. The recent artifact sets within Krai even calls the mirrors of the Frostmoon sacred silver mirrors. But mirrors can also mean inverted reflections of the sky in still water, which is something tied to Khaenri'ah. Crimson Moon astrologers there once studied these false reflections as signs of truth. So this moon's reflection could be an inverted reflection of the missing iridescent moon's body, which ties into why Khaenri'ah lore so often mentions inverted cities or revelations from hanging upside down, of which we've already seen from the silver twig in Sumeru through Nahida. In short, the moon's reflection may be sealed in a place created through inversion, a dark still water lake reflecting the sky. While Rerir's survival is due to two main things: the divided abyssal knowledge and power that he gained when he became a sinner, and Renova's curse of immortality on pure-blooded Khaenri'ans. Rerir, however, seems cursed with the worst mix. He was burdened with the abyssal knowledge of blasphemy against death, while also cursed with immortality by Renova. Compare this to the other sinners: Rhindaughter linked to the blasphemy of life, Brotherfulnir to time, Sertology to void, and Ruptatir to reason, each one corresponding to a shade, and together they tie back to the primordial one, Fanes. Our fight with Rerir also brings up questions to whether or not he'll become playable, or at least become a trans domain like the Harbingers. If you were wondering who Tholindis might be, the most ancient tales of the Wild Hunt in Krai describe a ghostly woman in the Wild Hunt mist, likely Tholindis. If Rerir was the one who created the Wild Hunt, then his bitter rage at Rhindaughter and Brotherfulnir, as well as his mention of Tholindis, suggests that he's either searching for a lost loved one or hunting someone who betrayed him. Now after the final battle, Rerir is stopped by Varka for a mysterious chat. This again raises two questions. Why does Varka want to speak with Rerir, and why is Rerir sitting in a cave right next to our crashed spaceship location? If you go to Star Sand Shoal, there's a small cave where our spaceship was supposedly crashed right here. And the angle like this is exactly the same as the one with Rerir and Varka. My theory is that Rerir already knew the ship's location and stole data as well as flight logs and maybe even more info about the moons during or right before the cataclysm happened. Varka's presence, on the other hand, feels more connected to his own expedition on the Wild Hunt rather than Rerir himself. But his real mission isn't about the Wild Hunt or the moons directly. Rather, it's about finding the Seelie Kingdom and the first Seelie, Nicole Reyn. Based on the new Spindlewood Catalyst lore, Varka's expedition is targeting Lake Amsvartnir, as he was mentioned to be going there when we were in the flagship tavern. But the real goal seems to be the Seelie Kingdom, already hinted at in the Welkin Moon teaser. Yes, we already knew about it before Krai was even released. After Nefer's tale of the world's creation, Nicole appears in full form and completing that story, unlike in-game where she only speaks through teacups. A hidden land revealed only at night where inverted skies and moons reflect on a lake, which if you can recall is also related to the inverted still water that the Crimson Moon dynasty used to find truths about the moon. Seelies and moon sisters are intricately connected, and especially during their fall and the rebellion, but right at the start of Krai we already have lore of the rebellion as well as the Voyager who married the first Seelie. But that's a bit too much fluff, so we'll focus on the Seelie Kingdom and Varka and Krai for now. Here the first Seelie sings endlessly with eyes like stars. The reason how we know this is because of Volume 3 of A Drunkard's Tale, mentioning a lone wolf finding the Seelie Kingdom and meeting a lone Seelie. Nicole Reyn matches that perfectly, almost 1-to-1, and Varka could be this lone wolf destined to meet her. I hazard a guess that this Voyager could also be reincarnated through Varka. If you're wondering how Varka and Nicole might even know each other, then it's probably through Alice and the Hexen Circle, plus Nicole's tea conversation and Varka's possible origins as the Voyager himself. Now on to another pressing matter. Our arrival in Krai gave us that huge scene of a spaceship crash site, followed by the Traveler actually speaking, which surprised a lot of players, including me. The only reason the Traveler could sense the ship was because of Kuvaki, a primordial power from the Light Realm unique to Krai, which again brings up questions to how exactly can the Traveler sense and absorb these powers. The ship itself glowed blue as it fell, like how Skirk fell from the sky, and completely different from the two golden shooting stars in the prologue. The mention of flight logs and the truth buried in Krai ties directly to what's hidden within the world, or underneath the world, and why exactly it had to stay buried. Is it a power related to Nibelung, or is it a power that humans and the dragons originally should have possessed? We all know that color matters a lot in Genshin, but right now in Krai, gold, blue, and silver keep popping up. Blue, white, and silver for our ship, as well as the Moon Sisters, but gold in some of the most important moments. The golden aura of Kuvaki itself, the golden barrier within Hisi Isle, golden rays appeared when we used the blue marrow of the moon, golden meteors when we fell into Tevat, blue streaks of light when we were in the spaceship, and Asmodee using golden stars instead of red. This suggests that the prologue scene happened after we first entered Tevat in our spaceship. Golden colors also shows up in God's Limits, where the shades reside. The celestial aura as well as stairs there look a lot like the Lord of the Night's Seelie aura, but this time it's golden compared to blue. We also see the same golden glimmer from the Frostmoon when we first absorb the Eternal Moon's marrow. All of the moon should technically be silver, white, and blue, but for some reason this Frostmoon is golden. Kuvaki itself is also golden, which makes you wonder if this is actually moon power at all. So this golden aura probably isn't the Frost Moon at all, but the Heavenly Principle's veil above it, or a completely different power eating away at the moon. Gold has always been connected to the Primordial One, especially with the new artifacts and weapons that describe golden threads and a harp. My take? This golden power isn't the Primordial One's true light. If anything, the Primordial One didn't have any power at all and was only stealing a twisted mix, which is moon power filtered through phlogiston, the purest form of elemental light, or the sun, likely tied to Nibelung, the morning star dragon who originally created the moons, now dead and covered in the abyss, of which can actually absorb the same element that the Primordial One and the moons can create. Now, during our introduction, Inefa also mentions the origins of the word paradise. She links it to the paradise of the Age of the Fae and the rule of the Belyate Tsar, the first Cryo-Archon, and its collapse during the Cataclysm. She recalls the Lantern Fae who once protected Krai, but after seeing their land perish, many extinguished their own light, which is basically dying. One rare survivor is Flynn's, a Lantern Fae carrying a special blue lantern, which is different to the purple hue when mixed with the fragments of Rerir. A Lantern Fae's blue lantern carries their life light, and once it goes out, they basically die. Flynn's tale ties closely to the legend of the Blue Lantern Keeper as well as the Lantern Fae, of which after a very long life and story, he became a depressed Fae who nearly gave up and wanted to end his light, but was pulled back into the world by the courage of a dying rat Nikki. This led him to becoming a Light Keeper, using his lantern to save lost souls that couldn't pass on. Further lore about the Fae from World Quest also solidifies the Fae are alive and well in Snezhnaya as nobles that try to bring back the Fae paradise during the Belyate Tsar era. But the Lightkeepers' origins themselves come from the relations of the founder, Solovey, and the first Moonchanter, Ayla, who turned the Frostmoon Scions from blind faith and greed to true devotion and worship of the moon. And speaking of moons, Kutar, the moon goddess of the Frostmoon Scions, and also the Fatui's damselet, was air quotes born on Hisi Island around 500 years ago, recorded as Kuhenki wove moonlight into silken garments for her. She admits that she doesn't truly know her name, but she still remembers a lullaby from that moment, a song calling her a little dove, Columba, daughter of the moon. It blesses her as the moon's child, but also hints at loneliness and separation. That song is basically her missing prologue, and is the same song she sings whenever you visit her cave. Right after she appeared in Krai, the Scions adopted her as their goddess before she could even object. Columbina adopted their faith in return, but their endless demands for blessings wore her down. She eventually left when their faith became greed, which actually tracks because of the World Quest lore about the Frostmoon Scions. Lama explains that before she was born, Columbina had already departed, distraught at the Scions' obsession. This led her to Snezhnaya, where she became a harbinger under the Tsaritsa, but even there she realized that others valued her only for her power. She was spotted on Hisi Isle again, only after 2 eternal moon fragments fell on Hisi Island. What's interesting about Columbina is that she tells us that the moon can be treacherous and hints that the moon above Tevat isn't what it should be, that some can see the true moon and some cannot. This is both a cautious warning of the fake moon as well as the ominous frost moon that radiates golden light, which in all accounts should be blue or silver or even white. Despite her distance, she shows quiet care, saving the traveler's party, treating Sandroni like a sibling, and insisting that the eternal moon's marrow must never fall into the Fatui's hands. Her conversation with Sandroni as well as other dialogue with us further solidifies either the Torre, Arlecchino, or Piero wants the moon marrow and not Sandroni. Columbina also states that her power and time is running out, likely time to save the Frost Moon and time to rise as the new moon. Finally, back to Lama and the Scions, she starts with the 3 sisters, the Eternal Moon, eldest and the most powerful, who raises tides, the Frost Moon, which is the brightest, and the Iridescent Moon, smallest but very peculiar in color when she shines. In the Descenders' War, they perished, with only the Frost Moon surviving, while the Eternal Moon's fragments rained on Krai and fueling Kovaki. The Iridescent Moon's remains were never found and is assumed to be related to the Crimson Moon Dynasty's rise and fall, which again goes back to Rerir and his possible connections to the Crimson Moon Dynasty. The Scions also guard the Moon Marrow, a fragment used by the Moonchanters to glimpse the past. As for what this past could reveal, or who it belongs to, we don't exactly know. For example, the Eternal Moon Marrow for some reason showed us a glimpse of our ship 500 years ago, of which shouldn't even be possible because the Eternal Moon is dead. Now, in emergencies, a Moonchanter can host it in their body. Usually, a Moonchanter can survive for 2 days, but Lama thinks that she could last 5. But interestingly, the Traveler absorbed it without any backlash and can keep it inside them for as long as they want. It also sharpened their Kuvaki senses, helping them mask its scent from the Wild Hunt. This raises further questions to why the Wild Hunt wants the moon and the absorption ability of the Traveler, especially when they used a combined Abyss attack with Rerir disguised as the Traveler. Rerir's absorption and use of the Abyss raises questions as to what the relations are between the Abyss and Kuvaki, especially since both powers can be absorbed and empower each other depending on which of the two is dominant. Now, we already know the Archon quest lore about Llama and the Scions, but something interesting about priestesses is how their leadership changed. After Hyperborea's fall, Ayla, the first moon chanter of the Frostmoon Scions, reformed their faith from bloodline traditions into moon devotion. Lovia, the last Hyperborean archpriest, was erased from records for blasphemy and collusion with outsiders. The weapon Moonweaver's Dawn shows her manipulations as well, grooming Ayla with Silver Thread Destiny, enforcing purity through silenced voices and rituals using blood, even ordering Solove, the Lightkeeper founder, under false claims. This was when Ayla turned her blade on Lovia instead and killed her, which then proved Lovia's lies as a human with crimson blood instead of an actual Scion with silver blood. Hyperborean Scions were never real Scions to begin with, and was only after the power of Columbina at the time, which connects with why Columbina left 500 years ago. These old rites codified punishments like cutting antlers with silver blades or exiling themselves to the long night of unknowing. In the Archon quest, Velamina enacts this grim ritual on herself before Lauma, proving how deep these traditions really are and how scarring it is to a Frostmoon Scion. The Scions did have many other laws around marriage and offspring, all to preserve their purity as Frostmoon Scions, but we're not really going to talk about that. In the present, Lauma leads them with mercy and truth, as seen in the Archon quest. She vows to change the Scions with the new moon and admits that she should have never held everything together with empty prayers in the first place. But the Scions' story have yet to reveal a very peculiar outlet of infinite blessings similar to the one in Salvin Dagnir, as well as a weapon that the Fatui will use against the Abyss and the fake sky, namely the Sampo Mill and the Arrow of Terpicraunas, a very huge bow which I'm sure will be revealed in the next patch. And there we go, pretty much every important bit of lore and theory I can make for the entire Luna 1 Archon quest. I know that's a lot to take in, but don't worry, I'll be breaking things down even further in future videos with more focused and deep dives on some of the characters as well as items and locations that we have seen and heard of within the Luna 1 patch. If you made it all the way to the end, first off, thank you, and let me know in the comments which character you'd like me to cover next. Whether it's Columbina, Lauma, Rerir, the siblings, or the other weird sibling, or even some of the Fae and maybe even Varka and Nicole Reyn. If you've stumbled on any interesting lore findings or theories yourself, drop them down in the comments below. I'd love to check them out and maybe even add them to our videos. But that's gonna be it for now. I'll see you guys in the next one, yeah? So as always, stay mad, theorists. Bye!